Hi and welcome to Slick Willy Flying. Today what we're going to do is the urban baitfish. So the inspiration for this fly is the canals in Miami or South Florida. And in those canals, there's a lot of variety. You could catch snook and tarpon, largemouth, all kind of exotics like cichlids. But the species that lately we've been targeting that's kind of cool are the peacock bass. And that's a really cool species. And that's the reason that I'm using this color combination of yellow, orange, and olive. We think, I hope correctly, but we think that this is a color combo that works really great on the peacocks. And the other species tend to like them also. So this one is craft fur. I have a little tiny bit of flash in there that I think you can see. And I also have those two nice little feathers for a little bit more detail. It gives it a little bit more, I don't know, something makes it look a little bit more fishy. I tie variants with peacock. I tie variants in different colors. The one that I want to tie next, I want to tie smaller, a good size smaller. I'm going to tie basically the same fly but smaller. And like I said, I'm using orange, yellow, and olive. It's around here somewhere. Craft fur. This one has yellow epoxy eyes. I think I'm going to go to silver epoxy eyes. For flash, I'm going to use this Ice Dub Shimmer right here. A little piece out, perfect size. And but that's pretty much all the flash I'm going to use. UV resin head. Not putting any additional lead or anything on this fly. And yeah, I say we have another sip of our cocktail. Change the camera angle. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and let's tie a fly.
Oh! Awesome. Yee! On the fly, baby, on the fly. Oh! Little guy. There's some big ones there. The little guys. All right, I'm trying next. It's too good.
Okay, so let's get started. So I'm putting a size 1 mustad hook in the vise like we explained. And I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue on this hook. And now we're going to go ahead and start our orange thread. I like to smear it around just a little bit. So we really just want to tie a little bit of a smaller variant of the same fly. I think it's important to have different sizes in the box, and you know, for this canal style fishing that we're aiming towards, I sometimes want a little bit smaller fly. If I'm just going to be like in Chokoloskee or in Flamingo and I'm going to be casting under some mangroves, then I would probably be more interested in a larger fly, but not for this canal style fishing like in the video that I showed where my buddy was catching that awesome peacock right there, right in Miami. It's so cool. So we're going to start with a little bit of yellow, and like all the different kinds of craft fur that I use, I'm just going to pull out the crazies, the crazy longs, the crazy shorts. And I'm just going to put a little clump, and this is the only clump that's not going to be reverse tied. Actually, I might put more than one clump, not reverse tied, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and put this kind of in the center of the hook. I don't want this to be too awful long, but what that does right there is that establishes the overall length that I'm aiming towards. So I'll put another little clump underneath. And one thing that I really like to do when I tie this fly is I can get creative with colors. You know, I can mix and match my creams and tans and light browns and just give it a little bit more of a natural look. So I'm just making sure that I've got good coverage all the way around in the back, like I do. And I could take a needle and just make sure that that's on either side of the hook, just like that. And that's perfect. There's my tail. Beautiful. Now at this point, you have a couple options. You could put a little bit of flash in. You can go straight to another color. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm going to go ahead and add an additional color that I wasn't really ready for, but we'll use it anyway. I'll put a little bit of sand in this one. I think sand will blend nicely. Here's my sand. So I'm just going to get a little clump of sand, which I think will go nicely with the yellow and the orange. You know, it's just having a little bit of imagination is all this is. And again, I'm going to peel away all the shorts. Now I want to think about my length. This is still going to stay on the bottom, but I want to keep that baitfish shape. So I don't want it as long as the yellow. So that's about the length that I want right there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. And we're going to tie this in as a reverse tie. So I'm going to just pinch it here towards the front. A couple of loose wraps, making sure that I like where it's sitting. And now lock that in nice and hard. Now, something that you need to think about, where you put in these wraps is where the reverse tie is going to pinch back, just like that. So if you bring your thread farther forward, that's where the reverse tie is going to be. And I like to give myself a little bit of room to make that UV resin head. So now we're going to go to orange. Actually, I take that back, because the olive is the top. So I got to put the olive on first. So I'm going to get a nice clump of olive. And this is a little bit interesting. The olive, I really want the olive to be my longest fibers. It's the top. I want it to go from the front all the way to the back. So I want the olive to be longer slightly than the yellow, which makes this fly a little bit longer, but I think it's going to be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and square that up. Carefully transitioning this in my fingers. And bring my thread back to that same tie-in point. And now I really don't want the olive to blend. So I'm going to do a wrap only around the olive and then a wrap around everything. And that should keep the olive from blending. Make sure that I like where it's sitting. And I do. And now we're just going to lock that in. And now we can get a clump of the orange. Again, I'm going to pull out all the shorts like I do on all the others. And now, making my life a little bit easier here, I want the orange to be a tiny bit shorter than the olive. So I have my length right there already easily established for me. Square this up. Carefully transition again. Again, I don't want these blending, so I'm going to do a wrap only around the orange. And now I'm going to wrap around everything, making sure that I like where it's sitting. And I do. Now I can pull that nice and tight. Alright. So now at this point, I am going to put a little bit of flash in. So we're going to use that ice shimmer, that ice dub shimmer that we were talking about. And I have a piece right here that might be a little too much. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this in half. I'm just going to trim the welded section. Separate that. And that's perfect. That's plenty. I'm not even going to take the welded section off. I'm going to go ahead and tie this in right on top, a couple loose wraps, making sure that I like where it's sitting. It might be a hair long, so I could just draw it in a little, just like that. And once I'm happy with that, I just crank that tight. And now I can take this tag, can give it a little twist, which will tighten it up, and carefully, without cutting any of my craft fur off, just trim off that tag ends. And that's pretty much all the flash we need. Now, on this previous fly, I went in and tied a hackle feather, but it's not necessary. It is a nice little feature. In fact, we can do that. Alright, so I got this nice little grizzly cape, and I'm just gonna pluck a couple feathers off of here. That'll do it. Now I'm going to just trim this up a little, get a little bit of that really fuzzy stuff off the end, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tie this in on my side first. And now we'll do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Making sure that we like the placement. That one came out a little bit long. Do that again. I mean, I don't think it makes that big a difference, but I like for my flies to look nice. Alright. So now we got those tied in. So now I bring my thread back to that tie-in point. I get my little push tool. I want to separate the olive and the orange from the cream or sand. best I can. I really try to take my time at this point, because this is where the fly really turns out nice or not. And once I've separated them, I just kind of use the push tool to start moving everything back in the way I want them. I hold it tight, and now this is my last chance to kind of move stuff around if I'm not happy with the way something looks. So I'm just going to take my time and just look at this nicely. And I like the way that this is blended out nicely here. So now the trick to doing a reverse tie is you take your thread and you pull it forward and you make a little wall basically in front of all the craft fur or all the material that you're reverse tying, because you can easily do this with bucktail or several other materials. Now, because of the type of head that I'm going to make, I'm going to go ahead and wrap over the craft fur. Whoops. Well, that slipped off, so we're going to do that again. It's not a problem. It's actually pretty cool. You see me basically fix a problem now. Back to my little push tool. I already had the little wall in front, which was the most important part. But again, we need to make sure that we're happy with the way everything looks. One more time. And now we bring our thread over. I'll put a couple more. I can always back it off if I'm not happy with the way something looks. I have a little too much olive down, so I'm going to pull that olive up. Just going to work this a little bit till I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied. I think that looks really nice actually. So now it's a whip finish. And we can trim off the knot, because the fact that I am not going to that I am going to do a UV resin head. I don't really need to get crazy with knots. One knot will do. The UV resin is really going to lock this all in. Okay, so now it's time to make that UV resin head. And I know that maybe you don't think, maybe it doesn't look it, but this fly would fish perfectly just the way it is. And that feather that we put in, that hackle feather, will really come through in the water and will really make this very fishy looking. Okay, so before I start with the UV resin head, I am going to take a second, get my little chop back out, and clean up my station here. And I'm going to get this little trusty tool out, and I'm going to singe the fibers that are kind of going the wrong way here. Because the more I singe now, the better the head's going to look. Nice. Alright. For eyes, on the previous one, and you can see how much bigger that fly is, I used yellow eyes. On the one we just tied, I decided I'm going to go for silver eyes. Again, I just like to have a little bit of variety. right, so there it is. I personally love this fly. I think it has just the right amount of flash. Those feathers are definitely going to shine through. This little combination of yellows and orange and olive, this is awesome on the peacocks in those canals, like in the video I showed you. But largemouth, snook, tarpon, all the different species that we're chasing in those canals, they'll go for this fly. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe. Good luck catching, and see you on the next video.